Hey everyone, this is going to be a guide on how to create listing types in Tangram, how to add fields to them, and how to manage their settings. So the goal of this is to be an all-around guide for how listing types work and how you can modify them on your own. So to manage listing types, first you want to click the wrench icon in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen while logged in as an admin, and click the listing types tab. From here you can manage the types of listings that can be created on your platform. So right now on this test platform, I have one listing type called in-person listings, and I'm going to create a second one called virtual listings. It asks you for a description as well. We'll just put lorem ipsum. And it asks you what role should be able to create listings of this type. So the most common reason that this matters is you want a listing to be created by a vendor and show on their profile. In most, the significant majority of cases, you're going to be allowing the people vending services on your platform or products on your platform to create listings. So in this case, we're going to attach this listing type to vendors. So after creation, I'm going to walk through quickly just the settings that you should probably take a look at. Most of these are not things that you need for most listing types, but the things that you do need for most of them are, one, you need to make sure your name and description are set correctly. Two, you need to set the scheduling type. And then three, you need to set monetization preferences. So I'm going to skip to scheduling because we already did the name and description, but as for how this listing type should be scheduled, you want to select the one of these that's most applicable to the listing type you're creating. So if you want no date and time selection, just put none. If you want the vendor to create a specific date and time, like if you're creating events or something like that, you'll click event. If you want the customer to choose a date and time based on the user's availability, but to have the duration set by the vendor, you'll click appointment. And then if you want per hour or per day, you would select the corresponding option there as well. Those two are pretty self-explanatory. Finally, if you want the availability to be shared between a user's listings, then you want to select user from the should listings be tracked, what level should listings be tracked at menu. If you want the availability to be unique to each listing, then you select listing from this dropdown. And then the last thing with the listing type settings is just monetization, which covers the various Stripe-related functionality with the listing type. So I'll go through each of these settings one by one. First off, we have how much would you like to charge users to create listings of this type. Usually this is 0. In some cases, platforms want to charge a flat fee for users to create listings. In those cases, you would just set this to that integer value. In the case of the next ones, direct all payments to platform Stripe account, this, if you have it checked, will just make all the payments go to your platform account and you would pay out your users manually. If you have your users setting up Stripe Connect accounts and doing automatic transfers between them, then you would leave this unchecked. But if you want to do the transfers manually, then you would check this box. Next, we have minimum spend, which basically this just adds a field to listing creation that makes it so that listing creators can decide the minimum amount charged for a booking. And then if that amount isn't met, then a minimum spend surcharge will be added to the transaction. Next is inventory tracking, which enables a quantity field and tracks the remaining inventory for a listing. So that's good for products especially, but most listing types won't use that one either. And then the next one is setting a maximum quantity. That's also quantity related. If you don't have inventory tracking enabled, it won't do anything. Automatically set a price for listings with this type. What this will do is, rather than ask for a price in the listing creation process from the vendor, if we set this to 5, for example, all listings created with this listing type will have the price 5. And then if we don't put the price field on the front end, then there will be no way for the vendor to change it. So that's how you would force the price to be set for every listing of a type. And then at the bottom here, we have the fee-related settings. So we have percentage to collect online, which just says how much do you want to actually charge of the total through the booking on Tangram. So in most cases, you want this to be 100%, but in some cases, if you're doing like a deposit flow and then allowing users to pay in person, you would set this to whatever percentage, like 20 if you want a 20% deposit. And then for the fees, you have two options for each side. You have vendor side fees, vendor side multiplier, and vendor side flat, which add the fees to the person creating the listing. And then you have customer side fees for both of those, which add the fees to the booking side of the transaction. So that covers all of the important settings in listing creation and what they do. Next, I'm going to show you the process of managing the listings. So I guess to illustrate what the listing creation process looks like to start, I'll create a new listing of that type. So I'm in a user account and I'm creating a virtual listing. And as you can see here, there's almost nothing on the listing creation process by default. What we need to do to put fields on the listing creation form is go into the Fields tab and add all the fields you want connected to that listing type to it through this menu. So the way I'll do that is I'll search for in-person, because I already have that listing type, in-person listings, fully set up. And as you can see here, we have all of the fields attached to that other listing type. So I'm going to copy them over one by one. I'll just open each menu in a new tab. And then I'll go through these tabs one by one, click new, and then I'll add it to virtual listings. We want to show this field when users create listings of this type for title, and we want title to be required. So this one's fully set up now. And if I go, I'll actually go back to show you before I do the other ones. We'll go to listings and we'll go to that listing we just created, the virtual one. Oh, I guess we didn't save it, so we have to go through and create a new listing. We'll create a new listing for Avery and we'll say virtual listing. And as you can see here, now title is on this menu too. So we'll go through and we'll add the other fields here. So we want to add each of them to virtual when listings are created, and we will make price required. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing for photos, but we don't need it to be required. And we're going to do the same thing for location. So virtual listings, and we will make that required. So if I go back now to this listing and I refresh, each of those listing fields has been added to the creation form for this listing type. What you can do from here, once the fields are added to the listing creation menu, you can click these 6 dots here and drag the field to the position you want it in. So title I want at the top, and we'll put price above duration. We'll put photos above duration, and we'll put location at the bottom. At the bottom here, there's this little checkbox for hiding this listing from profile and search results. This shows up for everyone, and what it does is it makes the listing basically private. So it would only show up for the user who created the listing and anyone they're directly linking it to. And then the last thing in this process that I want to highlight is this little pencil icon next to each field. If I click on that, I'm brought to this little modal that shows some settings for this specific instance of the field. And what this allows you to do is change attributes about that field on this page without affecting the other listing type. So I'll change it here to just show you what I mean by that. We'll change the label of title to virtual listing title. And now the title of the listing, the title field on this listing type is virtual listing title. But if I go to an in-person listing, as you can see, the title field on that has not been changed. So it's just local to that specific type of listing. So we'll go back one more time, and we'll go to the last thing I want to show you, which is what if you have a field that doesn't exist that you want to create. So we have other guides on this, but I do want to show quickly what that process looks like. So we're creating a virtual listing again. And for this type of listing, just thinking critically about like what does a virtual listing include? In most cases, you're going to want a virtual meeting link for a virtual listing. So let's go ahead and add that now from the fields table. So I'm going to click new field and select what type of field I want to create. In this case, I'm going to want a link field, and it's going to be meeting link. So I'm not going to go deep on the field connection process, but just go again through this adding to the listing thing. We want this to be on virtual listings only. And in some cases for this one, we might want it to be when they create listings, and in some cases we might want it to be when they book listings. Just to show you this setting, I'm going to put it where they book. So what this means is the customer will put a link, will be asked for a link when they book, and it won't be required because this box is set to no. So if I go now one more time, and I'm going to actually create end-to-end a full virtual meeting listing. I'm going to save that, publish, and I'm going to go to book this listing. As you can see here, we have the normal fields that are on every Tangram platform for transactions by default. We have full name, email, phone number, and then we have meeting link here, and requested date. This is due to the availability settings we set earlier. But as you can see here, this is the field we just added to the booking process. So any fields added in that way will show up on this information form when users are checking out. And when I enter this value, it will show for all of the users who can view the confirmation for this booking. So that covers pretty much everything around listing type creation and management. Please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything in this video that we didn't cover that you wish we did, and we'll publish a second part. But otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you all later.